Speaker, well, while we're correcting the record, I'll just tell my honourable colleague that I represent Vancouver Kingsway, not Queensway. But I want to read into the record exactly what I said earlier that seemed to have offended his feelings so much. I said this: an emerging group of cannabis capitalists composed of the same police officers and government officials who spent their careers prosecuting the war on drugs has already begun staking its claim to the new recreational market. Some notable names include Kim Derry, who served as deputy chief when the member for Scarborough Southwest was Toronto Police Chief, is now the security advisor for THC Meds. Former Ontario Liberal Deputy Premier George Smitherman, who once served as the province's health minister, also tied to the same company, former Liberal Prime Minister John Turner, is a board member for Mule Boom Organic Inc. Chuck Raffici founded Tweed Cannabis Inc., the country's first licensed provider, while he was CFO of the Liberal Party. And Julian Fantino, who once compared cannabis to murder and voted in favour of harsh mandatory minimum sentences for cannabis as a member of the Harper Cabinet, has now gotten into the cannabis business. It's a travesty of justice and hypocrisy of the highest order that those who fought hardest for legalization will benefit the least from it, while those who spent a lifetime enforcing prohibition are now filling the boardrooms of the cannabis industry. I'd like my honourable colleague to answer what was wrong with any of that, what's inaccurate, and why didn't John Turner, when he was Prime Minister, legalize cannabis if he now thinks that he should be on the board of directors of the company and profit from it?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, I would remind the honourable member he's speaking about a former Prime Minister, Right Honourable John Turner, who served this country honourably and in a very distinguished fashion. I see absolutely no remorse on the member's part, so I feel no particular compulsion or need to answer any further question. They're, as you have noted, Madam Speaker, quite leading. And I would encourage the member to examine his conscience a little more in depth and show a little bit of remorse and respect for the House and a respect for a former distinguished Prime Minister, distinguished Cabinet Minister, both in finance and for justice. And I think he should take a little time and think about what he just said. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Time for a brief question. The Honourable Member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Thank you very much. I'm just wondering if the member can advise us. I'm just wondering if the member can advise us. We've heard about education and all what the Liberal government was going to do regarding education. As a mother, I've received nothing, and I believe all parents haven't received anything. Where is this education that that the government promised 6 months ago?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Actually, quite a good question. If the member opposite has examined the fiscal framework that we have been discussing with provinces, she will note that we will be taking none of this for personal profit and investing it into fighting a lot of the ills that the consumption of cannabis has caused, including making sure that youth know about the ills of consuming cannabis, particularly the effect on the immature brain, and giving 75% to provinces and municipalities to make sure that they address the issues because they are in a good position to address it as well, making sure they put it through their streams to make sure the youth in particular know of the ills of consuming cannabis. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Resuming debate, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister. We have a point of order. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Madame la Présidente, je regrette.
Madam Speaker, I will say that it was impossible to come to an agreement with respect to 68.1 and 68.2 of the standing orders regarding the an act respecting cannabis, and to amend the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, the Criminal Code, and other acts. Under the standing orders, I give notice that at the next sitting of the House, there will be a motion put forth, and that there will.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of the Treasury Board.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable colleagues.
Point of order. The Honourable Member for, I don't know, it's Grasslands. Cypress Hills Grasslands.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt the proceedings here, but the end of her presentation was cut off by translation. We did not hear what the last probably 30 seconds of the presentation was.
So apparently there was an error with the translation. Would the Honourable Parliamentary House Leader or Government House Leader reread the last part of the proposal.
Put it in the record in English. Madam Speaker, I would like to advise that an agreement could not be reached under the provisions of Standing Orders 78.1 or 78.2 with respect to the consideration of certain amendments of Bill C-45, an act respecting cannabis, and to amend the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, the Criminal Code, and other acts. Under the provisions of Standing Order 78.3, I give notice that a Minister of the Crown will propose at the next sitting a motion to allot a specific number of days or hours for the consideration and disposal of proceedings at the said stage. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Translation was clear. Resuming debate, reprise de débat, the Honourable